Hello folks, welcome back to DIY guitar making at Eric Schaefer Guitars. Today is a very special day. It's new guitar day, I guess we'll call it, or finished guitar day. It's the ship date for this guitar, although I'm not shipping it. The customer is coming here to, we're gonna go through a setup and talk about the guitar together, and then I'm gonna hand this off to him. Before he gets here, I'm gonna go over in great detail with you guys just everything that I did to this guitar with lots of little, Luthery tips and tricks about executing something like this. And one thing you'll notice is this is not common, I shall say, here at Eric Schaefer Guitars. I have K&K Pure Mini pickups installed in this guitar. In fact, they're plugged in right now. So we'll talk a little bit about that too. Okay. Anyway, let's dig into it. But first of all, if you like what I do and you get a little something out of the lessons that I teach, go to ericschaeferguitars.com. There you can find the schedule of dates for my hands-on workshops. And also you can find my online course, Building an OM Acoustic, or the True Oil course, and loads of information there. So check it out. Let's dig into this. Okay, so we decided for Doug here that he wants a triple O. So for you guys that don't know, a triple O is just a short scale OM. So it's the exact same body size as an orchestra model, just with a shorter scale length. That scale length is 24.9 inches as opposed to 25.34 inches. So about half inch, less than half an inch of difference between them, which is actually pretty considerable in the way that the strings feel and the way that you can manipulate those strings. Lower tension on a triple O, higher tension on an orchestra model. So this is the lower tension version. And we've got Western Red Cedar on the top. I always think Western Red Cedar is just the best all-around choice that I've found with my guitars. So everybody, different luthiers have different experiences, and based on what they're trying to get out of their instrument, maybe Sitka spruce serves you better. I've always found Western Red Cedar to just be perfect for me. It's such a brittle wood, and brittleness is really what you're looking for when it comes to tone. Of course, that brittleness comes at a cost with workability. If you're not used to using Western Red Cedar, the first time you use it can be a bit of a nightmare and a bit of a learning curve. If you're used to Sitka spruce, it just splinters off a little bit more easily than Sitka spruce would. So anyway, that's the top. It's an X brace, by the way. Obviously you can't see that here, but I always do a pretty standard X brace pattern. I just like to thin out the braces compared to what Martin would consider to be an X brace. We've got Tasmanian Blackwood on the back and sides, and that's all framed in gorgeous ebony binding. So Tasmanian Blackwood, by the way, is in the Acacia family, which is the Koa family. I sometimes like to call this dirty Koa because it really looks a lot like Koa without the figure that you can get from Koa, and with these sort of dark, dirty streaks in there, which, you might not like them, but if you do, if you kind of like a little bit of a grungy appearance, I'm a 90s guy, so I like that, a little bit of grunge. We've got ebony for Gaboon ebony, or no, wait, I'm sorry, Macassar ebony for the fretboard, bridge, Wengi just for some of the appointments for the Rosette. Wengi is a very porous wood. You can see the open pores here because I don't fill pores typically. I like to kind of showcase the pores to showcase the woodiness of the guitar. And so the head plate is also Wengi there. And why don't we talk about the head plate for just a little bit, or the headstock for that matter, because everybody always asks about this tuner configuration and the tuners themselves. I'll start with the tuners themselves. These are Steinberger Gearless tuners. I have talked about these here on the show ad nauseum, but I'll just briefly explain to you that this is a different conception of a tuner entirely, designed by Ned Steinberger, the guy who came up with, back in, I guess, the 80s, those headless guitars, right? Now a lot of companies do headless guitars, but I think he did the first. You electric guitar people can correct me on that if you want. So these tuners are essentially the equivalent of a 4D-to-1 gear ratio. Now they don't have gears, because really what you do is you lock the string into the post, and then you turn these knobs in the back. These are string locks on the top. You turn the knob in the back, and the post dives down and pulls the string straight down with it. So it's not actually wrapping the string around the tuner post, it's just simply pulling it straight down. And that's what I mean by it has no gears, okay? But you get the gear ratio equivalent of 4D-to-1, which means very precise tuning. Think of it as, the way gear ratio works is 4D-to-1 means 40 turns of the knob equals 1 full rotation of the post. So 40 is a lot of turns. A more typical, I guess you could say that a standard gear ratio is like 16-to-1, maybe 14-to-1, maybe on a little bit nicer of a guitar, 18-to-1. But 4D-to-1 is unheard of. So that's why I like these, for that micro tuning precision. Okay, I'll give you a little look at the back there too. And then I do this staggered configuration partially because it looks cool. I like this kind of weird skinny headstock. And staggering them like this gets them all straight in a line so that the strings run straight over the nut, which means you only have one force vector anchoring against the nut, rather than on, say, a typical Martin guitar where the strings are anchoring down against the nut, but they're also splaying out to the side. And that extra force vector, I think, just wastes some of that valuable energy that otherwise would be going into the nut and anchoring against it. That, at least in theory, that makes sense to me, and in practice, I do think there is a difference. So this rosette here is kind of cool. This is a radial offset rosette. So it's radial in the sense that I assembled several different sections, 12 different sections of little wedges, orienting the grain towards the center as I went around. And then when I cut the rosette out, I first cut the outside hole, and then I cut the inside hole, and at each step I move the pin location for my Dremel that's cutting it out on the circle jig. I move that center pin location between the two cuts to get this offset look. And then I put these two accent pieces here on the bottom. I forget what species of wood those actually are. One I think is something called ebea. Oh, and the other one is definitely zebra wood. So I'm unsure on the ebea, or even if I'm pronouncing that correct, but I'm sure that that piece is zebra wood. And so that was a lot of fun. By the way, I do this with my Radial Rosette Maker jig. If I had one nearby, I would show it to you, but I'll just throw something up on the screen. That's a jig that I make and produce. Make and produce are the same thing. That's a jig that I produce here in the shop, and if you're interested in one, you can actually buy them at ericschaferguitars.com, and it's basically like an all-in-one workstation for very quickly and easily, and in a repeatable manner, making cool rosette designs kind of like this. Let's see what else. So on the bridge here, this is a newer-ish bridge design that I've been using. And essentially I've swept back the wings like this to coincide them with where the X-brace runs across, so that I don't have this little extra squared off piece of bridge that extends past the X-brace arms. Now, you need to think of the bridge like another brace. In fact, it really is functioning like one of your braces on the inside of the guitar. The only difference is we can see it on the outside of the guitar, but it is actually spanning between those two X-brace arms and connecting them together and adding a considerable amount of stiffness to that triangle in there. And so when you think of it as a brace, That's why I shape my bridges like this, so it essentially connects in like a brace. Okay? And you know what? I'm not going to go into any more depth about that shape than that, because we got a lot to talk about here. The bridge pins. These are really cool. LMI, rest in peace. I used to buy these from LMI, and I can no longer get them from there, so I'm out in the wild now trying to see where I can find these again. If any of you guys know, throw it in the comments and let me know where I can find these cool Parisian eye bridge pins. Parisian eye just describes this really cool design, which involves a small mother of pearl dot in the center, and then what I would assume would be like a brass tube that's inlaid outside of that dot and then cut off. And it just looks really slick. It works very well with my Evo Gold fret wire. Aesthetically speaking, that works well. And with the gold Steinberger tuners. These are 3-degree pins. Not that that really matters. You know, if you have 3-degree pins, you just need to make sure you have a 3-degree reamer. The other type of pins are 5-degree pins. You would use a 5-degree reamer. I don't really, personally, I don't think it makes a difference which type of pin you use. You just kind of pick one and you stick with it. So I've always done the 3-degree. Let's see what else I want to talk about here. We've got a backstripe real quick. I'll just explain how you get a backstripe on a guitar. Many people think that this is inlaid into the Tasmanian blackwood. No, it's much, much simpler than that. This is actually just sandwiched between the two book-matched halves when I join them. And it's just a unbent piece of ebony binding strip. So all I do is I slide that in between the two pieces when I'm hooking it up into the joining board, and put some glue between all the pieces and close that in tight. And that's it. And you know that too because you can see through the sound hole, you can see that black line on the inside as well. Oh, I should mention I do the lattice bracing on the inside. That's what I've done here. I do that on a lot of guitars now. I find that a lattice braced back is just a more evenly braced back plate than a ladder braced back. A ladder braced back, I think, encourages more long dipole modes to it, but a lattice braced back, being a more even stiffness all the way across, will, at least in theory, encourage more monopole pumping action, which, to encourage that bass response from these brash metallic strings, I think that's a good thing. So that's why I go through the extra work, and it is a considerable amount of extra work to do all those little lap joints to make a lattice braced back. All right, and with all that said, the customer is actually going to be here like any second now, so I'm going to go ahead and just play this a little bit for you so you can hear what it sounds like. I'm just going to noodle around. All right, I'm not going to say too much about the sound, which I love, because I want you guys to make your own judgments about it. And hey, you can post it in the comments, what you think. This is just going straight into my GoPro camera. I don't have any fancy microphones set up. But I will play this on the amp real quick. So that was just acoustic. I always think that's primarily that's what I care about. Because when you run it through the amp, I mean, when you're reading off the pickups, a lot of what you did to the guitar to make it what it is, a lot of it, but not all of it, goes out the window in a way. I will say, I really like these K&K Pure Minis. I have not installed them before, but Topwood. I think they really capture it well. I'm just playing this off of a small Marshall amp that I had to just dig out of the back room there. They've had for like 15 years, probably more than that. So I'm not well stocked here with amps and cables and all that stuff. As you guys who watch the channel a lot know, I just build acoustic guitars, and I don't really install pickups too often. So this is something different, and I really want to do more deep dives on electronics and pickups and things like that. Okay, maybe I need to build an electric guitar just to immerse myself at some point. We'll see. I'll just sign off here. I'm about to run out of battery on my camera. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye for now. Actually, we've got Doug here right now. So rather than listening to me play this guitar, we're going to let Doug take it away. But actually, before you start, Doug, I'm sorry to put you on the spot here. Can you explain what you just explained to me about your super cool sunglasses and why you wear them when you play?
Yeah, well, these are not the darkest of the glasses. When I'm playing a gig, I wear much darker glasses because it helps one escape into the song. If you're playing a song from inside, you can't be thinking about what you're playing because it's already entered into yourself, and it sort of expresses itself because you practiced enough. But an external distraction can take you away to the outside, and you lose contact with what's inside. And then, for me, it becomes harder to play, and it interferes with access to the lyrics, especially. And one slight distraction can remove you, and then all of a sudden, what's that next line, man?
I absolutely love that. That definitely resonates a lot with me. Yeah. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Why don't you take it away, Doug?
I'll play a little bit of this Dylan song with, I added a chorus to this Bob Dylan song called Song to Woody. Song to Woody Guthrie. Yeah, I'm out here 1,000 miles from my home, walking that road many men have gone down, seeing the world, places and things, poppers, sick and it's tired, it's tattered and it's torn. It looks like it's dying and it's hardly been born. Hey, Woody Guthrie was singing you this song. Hey, Woody Guthrie was singing you this song. Hey now, Woody, don't do this.
If you learned something here, please give this video a like and subscribe so you can be notified when I release a new DIY guitar making video. And if you want to really learn more, take one of my structured online courses at ericschaeferguitars.com or register for a hands-on guitar building workshop here with me in Burnville, Pennsylvania.